If you picture Wall Street, you probably imagine shouting traders waving paper tickets across a crowded exchange floor. Within these facilities, the nanosecond is the primary currency. Global liquidity pools now operate at velocities entirely imperceptible to human cognition, running through silent, refrigerated data centers in places like Mahwah, New Jersey. Inside these facilities, millions of automated, algorithmic orders cross paths every second. To process these trades fairly, an exchange's matching engines require absolute, flawless chronological consensus. They have to know exactly who hit the buy button first. This makes time the primary factor of competitive advantage. It serves as the foundational metric for market integrity, providing the only objective way to verify the sequence of the global flow of capital. To guarantee that chronological consensus, the industry relies on a master clock. Coordinated Universal Time is generated by the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Boulder, Colorado. From there, that exact time signature is beamed up to GPS satellites, sitting 12,500 miles above the Earth, which continuously broadcast the time back down to rooftop antennas at financial data centers. This chart shows the strict regulatory tolerances those data centers operate under. In the United States, FINRA requires trading timestamps to be within 50 milliseconds of the master clock. But in Europe, the MiFID II directive requires high-frequency algorithmic trades to be synchronized to an astonishing 100 microseconds. Standard software network clocks process data too slowly to meet those European mandates, so financial engineers adopted the Precision Time Protocol. This injects time data directly down at the physical hardware chip level, bypassing software queue delays completely. Because the U.S. government maintains the GPS constellation, these highly precise satellite signals are free to use. That $18 billion implicit subsidy disincentivized private companies from building their own backups. This economic reality created a technological monoculture where the global financial grid is tethered to a single, vulnerable point of failure. By the time a GPS signal travels from medium Earth orbit down to a rooftop receiver, it is exceptionally weak, operating with less power than a standard household light bulb. That weak signal is highly vulnerable to disruption, from severe solar weather all the way down to a delivery driver using an illegal 12-volt commercial jammer to hide their route from dispatch. A localized jammer causes an outright loss of signal, triggering immediate alarms. The far more dangerous threat is GPS spoofing. This is an active cyber-physical attack, where a malicious actor broadcasts a slightly stronger, counterfeit satellite signal to quietly overpower the receiver and subtly alter the network's master clock without ever tripping the alarm. If an attacker uses a spoofed signal to delay an exchange's clock by just a few dozen milliseconds, the incoming market data gets improperly timestamped. When delayed quotes hit the central system, they visually overlap with correctly timed quotes, making a buyer's bid exceed a seller's ask. Thousands of algorithms flood the exchange. Detecting corrupted timestamps, risk management systems immediately withdraw their money, leaving a complete liquidity vacuum. This exact mechanism of queue saturation and algorithmic withdrawal was the primary catalyst for the May 2010 flash crash. Security researchers warned that coordinated spoofing attacks could manufacture these exact conditions intentionally, allowing a rogue trader to siphon millions by front-running delayed orders, then realigning the clock to cover their tracks. This physical vulnerability extends far beyond Wall Street. The entire digital architecture of the modern economy requires space-based timing synchronization to operate. This chart details an economic model constructed by the Brattle Group, visualizing the impact of a total GPS failure. After just one day offline, the economy suffers $1.6 billion in damage. The telecommunications sector accounts for the vast majority of that initial hit. If the outage persists for 30 days, aggregate economic losses skyrocket to an estimated $58.2 billion. You might notice that direct losses for the financial sector appear remarkably low on this chart. That's because Tier 1 banking institutions already spend heavily on deeply buried internal defense architectures designed to survive temporary satellite blackouts. But that short-term immunity is an illusion. As a prolonged outage continues, those internal clocks inevitably drift. Once the timestamps breach strict legal tolerances, regulators force a mandatory halt to all algorithmic trading, completely freezing global market liquidity. When a financial data center loses its external satellite feed, it enters a state called holdover. The facility effectively disconnects from the outside world and relies strictly on its own autonomous hardware to maintain microsecond accuracy. The beating heart of these localized defense systems is the rubidium atomic clock. By using a process called microwave optical double resonance to stabilize the atomic gas inside the chamber, these compact devices provide incredible medium-term stability. However, no local oscillator is entirely perfect. The strict laws of thermodynamics dictate that over time, these isolated internal clocks will slowly accumulate physical errors and drift out of phase with true universal time. Holdover is a highly effective, localized shock absorber. It buys institutions precious hours to operate through localized jamming events, but it cannot permanently replace the requirement for a continuous, secure external time source. To prevent a catastrophic systemic freeze, federal agencies and network architects are racing to implement a multi-layered redundancy framework known as Assured PNT. Instead of relying solely on medium Earth orbit, data centers are actively integrating signals from low Earth orbit constellations. Because these satellites fly 25 times closer to Earth, they cast a cryptographically secure signal up to 1,000 times stronger, allowing timing data to penetrate deep into the concrete infrastructure of server farms. The ultimate failsafe, however, is being built entirely on the ground. Engineers are modernizing legacy low-frequency radio networks like ELORAN, transmitting across the Earth's surface at massive power levels. These terrestrial systems operate on physical frequencies that are virtually impossible to disrupt with standard GPS jammers. The days of a single, vulnerable space-based utility dictating the rhythm of global finance are ending. To guarantee capital continues flowing in the nanosecond era, Wall Street's future architecture will be anchored by a deeply layered, highly redundant temporal mesh.